Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics, opening day weekend edition. It's Christmas in the Midwest, the Cardinals opening day. And we are joined by a senator that represents the St. Louis, where the Cardinals are from, Senator Karla May. Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you. Good morning.
On a celebratory weekend here in St. Louis, let's talk about something that's pretty serious. 12-hour filibuster over the expansion of charter schools. There's been a lot of talk in the House about this bill. In the Senate, it come to the front. You could tell leadership, they made it a priority. This might be the most floor time I've seen this get in the Senate before. And it was, there were Democrats like yourself speaking, but the filibuster was not really led by Democrats. It was led by Republicans. When you look at charter expansion throughout, they're in your district now.
Yes.
To the rest of the county, what's your opinion?
Well, right now we do have charter schools, and it looks like, they're not going away. So the concern is they're not performing at the level that they should be performing. And another concern is that the standards for qualifications for teachers are relaxed. So that's one of the concerns. Now, also, some people are afraid to spread charter schools in other places, but they're concentrated in Kansas City and St. Louis. So, I'm not, at this point, I'm not really going to say, in the beginning, I really think charter schools are, let me tell you this. I feel like we in the state of Missouri shouldn't be have two competing school systems. That's how I look at it.
Let me ask you this question. If you were advising a parent, let's say it's just a friend, it's a person you've known for a long time, and they say, I have a chance to send my kid in the city of St. Louis to a charter school or to a public school, what advice would you give them?
I would say you got to pick the best place for your child, because I'm a mother.
Sure.
And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit the places that I think my child would do the best in. I know my child's personality, and I know where they're going to succeed at.
So you think there is a place for some charter schools then, for the kids with the right personalities, maybe?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying there's not a place for charter schools. I'm saying some charter schools are excellent. I do have them in my district, and some of them are performing excellent, but some of them don't perform. And then the thing about it is, we need to put some accountability standards in there, because it is taxpayers' money. And so when charter schools close, none of that money comes back. So that's the difference between the public schools, because, the funding is from the state per child, and it's not a system of where, everybody is basically salaried. So it's not set up like the charter schools. So when you set up the charter school system, it's set up like a business. So therefore, when you close down, that money does not come back. So when you, say for instance, if a child goes there and that child gets put out, that money does not come back. So if that child has to go back to the public schools, that money don't even follow them back, But right now, I think they've added some provisions to fix that. It was some accountability measures in the bill, though.
Yeah.
I think charter school supporters
even say you could put some reforms in to make more, maybe more oversight. Robin Wabi was on our show a few weeks ago, and I think even she admitted, yes, we could have a better system of oversight on charters, and maybe that's the step that gets taken this year.
Well, like I said, you already have schools active. You have children in those schools. So, right now we have to make them accountable and make them work for the children that are there right now.
All right, give me a prediction. That was 12 hours on the floor. It got laid over. You see that bill again this year?
I think we will see that bill again. I think that the representative that was sponsoring the bill in the Senate, that was carrying the bill in the Senate, he's tenacious. So I think the bill will come back up again. I think it'll be some negotiation going on. They're concerned, with spreading them, but I say, well, if we leave them concentrated in one area and don't spread them to other areas, I don't think you'll get the level of accountability that you need.
You mentioned the word negotiation. I get to sit up in the popcorn gallery and watch you guys in the Senate, and I've seen something that you've done right when you got there. It was compromise. It looks to me like you've taken bills, and of course in the Senate, people that watch this show might know, but some might not. In the Senate, just because you vote no doesn't mean you were totally against it. If you wanted to stop a bill, you'd filibuster it.
Yes.
So I've seen you offer amendments on things and negotiate other people's amendments to where you could sit down and move forward. And I thought that was an interesting thing. I think maybe some people didn't know what kind of senator you would be. What I've observed is a senator that maybe is one of the first to try to negotiate.
Yes. So yeah, we had a couple of bills on the floor. My senator that's my neighbor next door, he had a bill. And, it was an egregious piece of legislation, but he thought, you know, in his mind, he felt like, you know, he needed to do this. So I said, listen, let's talk about, you know, the evidence and the numbers, you know, to support your intent, you know, and we don't have numbers here. So, and he agreed to make changes to the bill. And, you know, that's what you have to do. You have to agree to make changes to the bill. We can't sit up, I mean, we can go 7, 8 days filibustering, you know, if you're making a point, but I think it's...
I watched something where Senator Leibler,
Yes.
who was filibustering you earlier in the week. He had a bill that would make, if you tried to resist arrest, you didn't get probation or parole.
That's
I watched you try to amend that bill
Yes.
and work to improve it. And then 2 days later, where you're essentially filibustering his bill, then the two of you are filibustering a different bill Tuesday night. It's an interesting way the Senate works. But explain that. He had a bill that was basically pretty harsh if you resisted arrest, and I saw you oppose it, but you tried to amend it a few times.
Yes. So I had a conversation with him. I said, listen, in this bill, the misdemeanors, first of all, you know, I love our police officers, but, you know, anything could be resisting arrest.
Sure.
And so you don't want to say, if this is a person's first time, they've never been accosted by police before, and they get a charge of resisting arrest, you don't want to say that, you don't want to tie the judge's hands and say he can't offer probation. So his bill was saying that you couldn't offer probation in those cases. And even in misdemeanor cases, we're talking about 4th degree assault. 4th degree assault will be me spitting on you in the face and you pressing charges. 4th degree assault, I come before the judge. The judge can fine me $500, give me a year in prison, or give me probation. So his bill was taking off the table probation. I mean, you know, sometimes we're human, we get caught up in the moment. So I asked them, will it be okay? Would you please accept the amendment of me removing resisting arrest and taking misdemeanors off the table and leaving it with just felony intent? So the bill says now, you know, if my amendment gets on there, if we bring it back up, the bill says that, you know, if you do anything to any emergency responder or anything like that with a felony intent, that you will not get probation in those instances.
And that's a substantive change.
So, yeah. So that was very good. So he agreed to do that.
Criminal justice reform you mentioned. You have a bill that makes mandatory minimums. And I thought that was, and I thought the most interesting part of that is the senator working with you is Ed Emery, one of the most conservative senators, and you would be one of the most liberal senators working together on an issue. Explain the bill and where it's at in the process.
So Senator Emery and I had 2 different bills. So, you know, I love him because he comes over to your office and he sits on the couch.
He has an aura of just dignity. Whatever he does, it's just there's an aura of integrity about it.
Yeah, even though sometimes you don't like his legislation, you cannot not like the man. You get me? So he comes over, sits on the couch. I say, well, I don't like why they're trying to remove these. You know, so we had a conversation, a back and forth of what crimes were not going to be. We were going to still let those crimes have mandatory minimums because they were such egregious crimes. And so we just went through those by the list and decided that, you know, all of these crimes, and we talked to corrections, we talked to, we had so many conversations. And so the bill went through a process. We finally got it voted out of committee unanimously. And now we had the committee chair to go ahead and put it on the calendar. So that's where it is in the process now. So now it's just sitting on the calendar. And they rolled the calendar, so I'm hoping, you know.
Yeah. Got a lot moved out this week.
Yeah, so I'm hoping, you know, they bring that up because I think that is a, you know, a good piece of criminal justice reform because you shouldn't have mandatory minimums on, you know, certain crimes that are not egregious.
I think it's an interesting thing. From the time you started serving in the House till today, Republicans, criminal justice reform used to be a dirty word to Republicans. They wouldn't even listen to it when you started. Over the time you've served, there's been a change in Republican philosophy to let's look at better government, not just whatever tough on crime or conservative, but better government. And I think some of these things, like when Ed Emery's working with you, is evidence of that.
Yes. I think that, you know, one thing I always preach is, you know, they say, well, what are you going to be? I told them, listen. I told them, I don't fall into these categories with this, you know, Democrat, Republican. I told them we're dealing with issues. And I say we have to look at these issues of the law and find out how they're going to impact people. And I said we represent people all across. I said, let's take the partiness out of it, and let's just talk about the people that this is going to impact. And so when we do that and I have that conversation, it seems like people open up and we really start to think about, you know, how this is going to actually impact people. And we do have people that live differently across the state of Missouri. You know, we have people that live in rural settings. We have people that live in urban settings. So, you know, how is this going to impact people, and what changes can we make to the legislation, you know, to make it better for everybody? If we get caught up, we'll be gridlocked like the federal government. We don't want to be gridlocked.
No, that's the one thing, and the last question I would have is on the budget. You can't do what the federal government does. No. You can't do deficit spending. The state budget numbers are coming in sluggish. They think there could be the DOR problems because of it. But interesting to me, you may have to bring the cutting out this session. And is that, when you start to do that, I guess it's going to be, where do you try to plug the hole, right? Is there a place you can cut that you see now, or where do you think the cuts will come?
Well, I think that, you know, what they should do is, we have a lot of fund balances with lots of money in them. And I think that Missouri...
It sounds like when you were in the House, there was an idea of that.
Yeah, well, you know, I was on the budget 7 years.
Exactly.
And so we have a lot of fund balances, you know, that in Missouri do not raise those fund balances. They haven't, and constitutionally, they're supposed to sweep them. I think it's every 2 years or 4 years. Don't quote me. They're supposed to sweep these funds. If I recall,
that was a Deb Lavender idea.
Deb Lavender.
She reads that budget, doesn't
and
she?
And she does it, and we used to meet all the time. Yeah. But Deb really started to pressure them on the fund balances when she came. See, when I came...
Now she's got an ally in the Senate. That's a whole different thing now.
She got an ally, you know, because when I first started on budget, we knew about the fund balances, but it was like taboo. You can't touch the fund balances, you know.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, Sylvie used to be budget chair, you know, when I started, and I loved working with, you know, Sylvie, Ron. Oh, my God, it was fabulous. But... you know, you couldn't touch the funds. They were taboo. The funds were off the table. So, you know, when Deb came, Deb found the funds, and it was like, you know, constitutionally, we're supposed to sweep the funds. So these funds got, oh my God, billions of dollars in them. And it's time to, you know, when you're trying to plug a hole, you can plug a hole without hurting anybody.
Well, Senator, it's going to be very interesting how it comes out. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Missouri Politics.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back. Our opinion maker panel, Tracy McCreery, joins the show again. However, first, go to showmemissouri.com, the history of Missouri, one county at a time. I got to sit down for one of the funnest shows we've ever done in St. Francis County, St. Francois to some, with Kevin Engler, a guy that's been a mentor I've looked up to my entire professional life. He was as fun in the show as he was on the House and Senate floors back in the day. Go to showmemissouri.com, the history of Missouri, one county at a time. St. Francis County this week. We'll be right back after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople, while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads, because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like, and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to Week in Missouri Politics. We're going to talk some politics now with our opinion maker panel. President Gretchen Bangert, St. Louis County, welcome back.
Thank you.
Tracy McCreery, friend of the show, welcome back.
Thanks.
Tom Hannegan from St. Charles, welcome back, sir.
Good to be here.
And Phil Christofanelli, maybe the busiest man on the House floor at any given day. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Happy to be here.
Tell me about charter schools. We had it in the Senate, 12 hours. It wasn't really a Democrat-led filibuster. They helped. It was a Republican-led filibuster. In the House, there's been a lot of talk about, can you get a bill out? Do you have the votes? Is it as close as the two people that have left Fitzpatrick and Gene Evans and then Rebecca Raber? Is that how tight it is? Tell me, what is a charter bill that could pass the House, and where is it right now with the votes?
Well, we are very close, I believe. There are a number of accountability measures that are put into the existing charter bill. I think they're one vote shy in the Senate. The problem is there are just too many people that are willing to filibuster right now.
Yeah.
So if they can find ways to accommodate those members, I think they can get it out of the Senate. And you know, in the last moments of session, a lot of things can happen. This is a priority for our Speaker, Elijah Har, and I'm still confident that we can get something done this year.
Give me a prediction, though. If they do get a bill out of the Senate, you can get 82 on the House floor.
I believe that we can get there.
Hannegan, you're in that caucus. Everything you hear says it's close, but it's not there. Would a Senate bill coming out change that dynamic?
It could influence people, I think. It's a tough one. You know, for my area, we have great schools, and there really isn't a great need for charter schools in my district. However, I also feel that people that do need charter schools or who do want them deserve that right to explore that. So I really think it's going to be a situation where people that want the charter schools are going to work to get the charter schools, and people that don't will say, hey, you guys are allowed to get your charter schools, but we don't need them in our area.
So bring background in education, charter schools. You've heard the arguments. Actually, Senator May made both of them, that people should have a choice. Different situations fit different folks, but it also takes away from the existing structure. Are they a good thing have they been a good thing where they've been used in St. Louis City and Kansas City?
Well, half of the charter schools have closed since they've opened, so I believe that some of them are doing okay, but many of them are not. And there's many facts out there that show that. There's actually a private school that's in the city of St. Louis that run by parents, a great school. And there was an article in the Post-Dispatch just a few weeks ago saying that that private school is now going to become a charter school. Why charge your folks $4,500 tuition when the state will pay $8,300 per student? So that's some concern too.
That is an interesting wrinkle. I mean, it makes logical sense. I just not heard that. But Representative, you're a St. Louis legislator. I'm a simple hillbilly. This fight's went on forever. It just seems like suburban Republicans and leadership in the House dragging rural Republicans to do something they don't want to do, to fix schools in places where they elect Democrats and they don't want the change.
Well, I think this is a great example of a one-size-fits-all policy does not work. I agree with Representative Hannegan, and if there is a district that really wants it, then let the school board sponsor it, let a local group of elected school board members sponsor the charter, and let the community decide that's what they want to have. But I think it's unfair to push a one-size-fits-all approach to education onto the state.
When they make that argument, I mean, to me, what Senator Arthur, I believe, had an amendment to let people vote to have a charter school in a school district. It makes some sense.
Well, the problem with letting the school board take over the charter school is it's no longer a charter school. It's just another public school that's run by the same group of people that are struggling with the schools they have. I think a charter school provides parents with an alternative option and a different group of people to take that school in a different direction to serve those kids.
Tom Hannegan, you know, back home in the Neelyville School District, we had a guy named Wayne Wilcutt. He was an old sawmiller, best school board member the state's ever had, kept Hillview open single-handedly. He was a good guy. People trust him. If he ran today, they'd get elected almost unanimously. Those school board members are elected for a reason, right?
It's true. I mean, you could almost say like the superintendents even are like mini mayors. So, but people that get elected to the school boards are people that are in the community, well-known, well-liked. So there's definitely, especially in my area, a really solidarity. They watch out for each other, and they are the community.
Prediction, is there 82 votes at any time in this session for any charter bill in the Missouri House of Representatives?
As far as I can say, I do not think they have the 82 votes, and I can't see it passing.
You know that caucus. You know both caucuses very well. Will there be 82 votes before?
I know there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on behind the scenes.
Yes, you do.
So they're not going to give up until...
So you think yes?
No, they won't get it, but I know there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on.
What do you think?
I think it's going to pass. I think it's going to be very close, but I think they'll get the number.
Well, all the people that promised to be 82 might get the chance to keep their promise, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think happens?
We've done it before. We'll do it again.
I think that might be. I think that might be it. Also, this week, Nicole Galloway came out. Pretty rough audit of DOR. It's an interesting thing. You had Greitens, Director of Revenue, that some say maybe the governor kept around too long. Right. But he is trying to clean up the mess. But it was interesting to me. I saw a gleam in Nicole Galloway's eye, as she called it the Parson administration many times. Explain what she found.
Well, she, to me, epitomizes the perfect auditor. So she's a CPA, and of course, she's the only member of the statewide office holders that's of the minority party. So, you know, she used some strong language in her press conference the other day, accusing the Parsons administration of breaking state law. Those are definitely fighting words, but I think that she is the kind of person, an office holder, that would not use those words unless she had data behind her.
Or maybe she would not use those words if she wasn't planning on running for governor and making that her Department of Revenue. What did you think of the audit?
I thought it was interesting. It came out the way I thought that it would. We need to make some changes. I'm glad that it's come out, and we are going to address those changes for the folks in the state of Missouri.
That Department of Revenue is going to put Robert Ross in the Hillbilly Hall of Fame on all their own, aren't they? I mean, my goodness. But it is good. I mean, look, I think as a person that doesn't trust the government, having an auditor of a different party, it was good for Jay Nixon to have Tom Schweik, and it's probably good for Mike Parsons to have Nicole Galloway. The audit, I don't know that it was that shocking, but it almost looked like the first smoke signal that she's going to run for governor.
There's a sign there. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Going back to Robert Ross, and I think he did a great job of looking into the whole situation, and also on the it was really a bipartisan thing. The minority leader and him, I think they worked well together and really looked into this and delved into it. So there definitely, I think, there's going to be some accountability.
So I think the audit said, yeah, there's a lot of problems, and yeah, they're trying to clean them up, right? I'm not sure that a lot of that was revelations, but it looked to me like you saw a person running for governor doing an audit of the person they're running for governor against.
It's certainly possible. You know, it's clear that there was a mistake made at the Department of Revenue. People have been held accountable for that. But the message that needs to come out, and that the Democrats continually forget, is that this is the result of Missouri tax burden going down more than it ever has before. We have cut taxes in this state, and even though the withholding tables were screwed up, you're paying less taxes this year, and that's a win for Missouri taxpayers.
All right, prediction time. When you look back on who files for office, everybody will be standing in line next February there in the Kirkpatrick building. Is Nicole Galloway in that line with you?
I think possibly.
No, that's not a prediction. Give me a prediction.
I'm going to say I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
I think we might look back and say maybe this was the first start that led her to the Kirkpatrick building next February. Let's talk about a bill that you had come through. It was a bill about prisoners and when it's time to let them out, maybe not just for common sense or compassion, but for what's best for the state. Tell us about it.
Well, it's, again, we are doing a sweeping thing about criminal justice reform. You know, the body has an appetite for that. So we're looking into a lot of different things about criminal justice reform. And one of those is sentencing, parole, and things like that. My bill is for a special population, a geriatric population. So these individuals are 65 or older. So we're looking at just a lot of different things about that. You know, health-related care to these people, that the rate of recidivism, can't say that word, that's a tough word, is very low. Yeah, I know, right? And so it was actually debated on the floor and passed, and we'll be moving over to the Senate, I'm proud to say. And again, what happened with this particular case was the body itself changed the sentencing law from 50 years to 30 years. And so this is just an effort to make everything equal and equitable and do the right thing.
Representative Christofanelli, people give you credit for helping on this. This seems to be the type of thing that's just smart government.
You know, there was a change made, and there were people that committed essentially the same offense receiving widely disparate outcomes in their sentencing. And this is an attempt to go back and make that right for a very small number of people that were caught in this technical loophole, and I applaud Tom for his work on it.
It does seem to be, whether you approach it from the level of compassion, fiscal responsibility, intelligence, this seems like the kind of thing maybe the state should look back on the era of tough on crime and see where maybe they went a little far.
Right, and to me, this is what the voters want to see. I think they appreciate seeing people like us all work together. You know, we can have our disagreements, but, you know, the conservatives and the progressives can come together and agree on criminal justice reform.
My only last question is Tom Hannegan the new Johnny Cash with the Missouri legislature?
He always was.
I mean, that be the man in black when you do these types of things. Yeah. Let's talk about Clean Missouri. It's interesting. It's been widely debated. It's almost better together as a new Clean Missouri as to what people like to talk about the most. You have some ideas on how to take and maybe roll back some of the way you draw the districts, but keep the ethics reform.
Last November, voters faced a binary choice, and it was multifaceted. There were many parts of Clean Missouri, some which they found very popular and that they wanted, and some that they might not have known as much about. And I found from talking to my constituents that they wanted a gift ban, they wanted a cooling off period for lobbyists, but they didn't know much about the radical reform to our redistricting process that was nestled in Clean Missouri. And so I'm going to put forward a bill that gives voters another choice. And that is a choice to keep the ethics reform that is highly popular and to go back to what is also popular, which was our bipartisan commission that draws the districts for this state.
Once upon a time, it was Republicans that hated having these judges draw these districts. That changed. I mean, I've been very impressed and tried to give a lot of credit to Sean Nicholson for the folks that came back. And from a political standpoint, it was great. But you did have several things in one measure. Do you think voters would pass just the redistricting reforms on their own?
I think that they will. I do. But as the present bill is now, the Clean Missouri, the present law, I will not vote to change anything that the voters have already spoken for.
You respect good politics, as do I. Something we have in common. It was great politics. But maybe not everybody knew about all the redistricting parts.
I disagree with that. I respect voters. I think they knew what they were doing. Clean Missouri got 5% more points or votes in my district than I did. In Representative Christofanelli's district, 8% more folks voted for Clean Missouri than him. So I think we need to respect the will of the voters. Clean passed overwhelmingly, even in heavily Republican counties.
Great politics. If you're a Democrat running for office, you should go see Sean Nicholson first. But is there not some space? I'm not sure that people knew what the old system was really, or knew what the new system would be. But the ethics stuff, anything you could stamp ethics on looks good, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think there was a lot in there. You know, sure. I truly do. My biggest heartburn is about the records and sunshine and things like that, and access to that. I get things from my constituents that are very private and very personal, and so I do think we need to talk about that a little bit, and I know that gives a lot of people heartburn, but that's my main heartburn. I don't think the ethical part of it, like the lobbyist gifts and things like that, I think we're all on board on that and don't have a problem with that.
Is there another real reform, though, as you make these IPs have to be specific to one issue?
I think that
that might be the
singular,
real,
that we should not be log rolling within an initiative petition. It's unfair, it's not good government, and we should keep it to one thing at a time.
Representative Bangert, with a minute left, who won the week?
I think the people that ran for office and won their elections, I think all of them are the ones that won the week.
Salute to them. Who won the week?
Representative Tom Hannegan for getting geriatric parole moving.
Oh, that was nice. Thank
very
you.
Nice. Yes. Who won the week?
Shamed Dogan. Again, just criminal justice reform. He's kind of the go-to person and taking that on, and so he really works with all the representatives on all the multiple issues of criminal justice reform.
Who won the week?
I'm going to say Speaker Pro Tem John Weeman for passing the strongest municipal transparency bill in the history of the state.
Looks good in that dye. Fills it up. Looks good in it. I'm going to say someone that's a former colleague of most of yours, Lincoln Huff, the senator. You can't really be a senator until you take on your own party and leadership over an issue, and he certainly did it Tuesday night. I think some people predicted he would be one of the best post-term limit senators we had. I think he's coming through on that early. We'll see you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics. Maybe early like Lincoln.
Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, Spire, and Sterling Bank.